What's up, world? One and only college football fanatic here, and here to talk to you about week 4 of the games. Got a lot of good games on slate for this week, especially starting on Friday night. Week 3 was good. We saw LSU go into Auburn and pull off a magical win in the fourth quarter when they were down 21-10. And also we saw how good Ohio State really is. And to me, Ohio State, like I said in my other clip, is top 2. Them and Alabama are top 2, pulling away from everybody else. But we still got a lot of football to be played, and things can change, things can happen, But let's dive right into it. As you see, I'm in my Louisiana Tech gear today. Louisiana Tech going into LSU this weekend. They'll give it their best shot. It's not going to happen. Too much talent on the other side of the field as an LSU. I ain't got to get into all the specifics, but LSU will win this game over Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns going to Coastal Carolina. That'll be a close ball game on the road for the Cajuns, but I think the Cajuns will pull that one off on the road in a close one. Tulane going to Ohio State. It's the wrong time to be going to Ohio State if it was any team. Urban Meyer is back on the sideline as the head coach. Ryan Day did a phenomenal job as the acting head coach. He got 3 wins under his belt. He has Ohio State playing at a high level, even though Urban Meyer was back at the practices. But it's Urban Meyer now. This team will be more motivated to even play since their head coach is back. Tulane's going to get slaughtered pretty bad. And we saw Oregon State, we saw Rutgers get slaughtered. This is going to be worse than those 2 teams getting slaughtered. Ohio State will defeat the Tulane Green Wave. Number 10, Penn State at Illinois. Tell you what, after we saw Penn State the first week, they have bounced back pretty good with wins over Pitt and Kent State. Illinois, they're 2-1. Wins over Kent State and Western Illinois, but a close loss to South Florida at home. But this isn't no South Florida. This is Penn State, led by Trace McSorley, who has thrown for 603 yards a game with 5 touchdowns. Heisman Trophy candidate, more than likely. And you got Sanders, who's taking the place of Mr. Saquon Barkley, and through his 3 games, almost 300 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. Penn State, they're averaging 489 yards a game, almost 500 yards. Illinois is giving up 480 yards a game. 480. 325 in the air. 154 rushing. Alright, so Trace McSorley should have a field day throwing the ball on Illinois, and because obviously they aren't able to stop the pass at all. Penn State allowing 324 yards, which is pretty good, to be honest with you. So Penn State will go to Illinois, and they will defeat the Fighting Illini. Easy as that. I mean, it's simple. You're not able to stop the pass, you're in trouble. So Penn State goes to Illinois and wins. Texas A&M at Alabama, Saturday, 2:30 Central Time. I'm actually trying to go to this game. Trying my best. We will see. If I'm not able to make it, I'll catch it on TV, but I am trying. Alright, A&M 2 weeks ago put up a good showing against a Clemson team. Just didn't get the job done, but they are showing that they will try to fight with any team in the nation. They're not scared, and now they have their biggest test against Alabama. Kellen Mond has thrown for 824 yards, 6 touchdowns. Williams right at 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Osmond 201 yards. Those are your main 3s for Texas A&M. Alabama, of course, we have Tua at 646 yards passing, 8 passing touchdowns. Najee Harris is actually the leading rusher for Alabama with 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Judy has 287 yards and 6 touchdowns. You look at it, talent for talent, it's too much on Alabama's side. Too much. From running backs to wide receivers to quarterback. Not to take anything away from Kellen Mond, who's a good athlete himself. The defensive side of the ball, I mean, you got Alabama D-line just stout. You got linebackers that could fly from sideline to sideline. And then, right now, you know, the player that has caught my eyes big time, that is Deontay Thompson, safety for Alabama. I said it on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, JBIZZA1229 at Twitter, on Twitter. Deontay Thompson might be the best safety I've seen at Alabama since Eddie Jackson. His range is so incredible. When I saw him play against Louisville, I was just in amazement. And then now seeing him every week, I'm still in amazement. I mean, this guy can make plays like that. He's a ball-hawking safety. He could read the eyes of a quarterback like that. I mean, man, this guy is unbelievable to watch. You know, and he's, to me, one of the best safeties in America. He could come back for another year next year if he want to. He could leave and go to the draft. I mean, we'll see what happens. He will be playing on Sundays. This guy is unbelievable. But to me, Alabama is just, right now, it's still just too much for anybody. A&M going to put up a good fight, but they don't have the defense like a Clemson to hang with these guys today, this Saturday. It's just too much Alabama. Bama's at home. Nick Saban is undefeated against all of his former employees. I like Alabama too much in this. Alabama allowing just 300 yards a game, 200 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. It's just too much. A&M might be able to stop the run pretty good, but I don't see them stopping Alabama throughout the game. I have Alabama big, not big, by big. Well, let's say big, because I still got Alabama by 21 points. That's big enough over Texas A&M. Okay, Georgia at Missouri. I tell you guys what, there's something about this game that's telling me this is going to be a very close game. Very close. Yes, Georgia is favored to win. They're favored to win by 14 in Missouri. And I understand. But I think Missouri is going to put up a hell of a ball game and have this game closer than what people are expecting. Okay? Georgia is allowing only 258 yards a game, which is phenomenal. But let's not forget who they've played so far. Okay, we going like strength of schedule. South Carolina, okay, ranked team, they played on the road, got the win. Peabody and Middle Tennessee State. They are going up against the best offense they're going to play for a while. Drew Lock has already passed for over 1,000 yards. Over 1,000 yards. And Hall has hauled in 430 yards receiving. That is through 3 games. That's phenomenal. That is totally phenomenal. I mean, look at who they played so far. Missouri. All right, a good Wyoming team who has a good defense, 40-13. They went to Purdue on the road and beat Purdue 40-37. All right, those are two good teams they beat. Even though Purdue's kind of reeling a little bit, I think they get back on track. But it's 2 good teams that they beat. All right, they almost throwing for 400 yards a game, almost. All right, defensively, they've allowed 380 yards. All right, 75 yards rushing 305 yards passing they have allowed. All right. I'm really saying this is going to be a closer game. I don't see Georgia winning by 14, but I do have Georgia winning. I think down the stretch, the talent level that the Bulldogs have is going to take over. Probably mid-third quarter, fourth quarter. I mean, I just think with Derek Dooley calling the plays, he's going to mix it up very good. He won't be predictable. He'll keep Missouri in the game for a while, but mid-third quarter to fourth quarter, that talent that Georgia has is going to take over, and they're going to propel with the victory in Missouri. Georgia Bulldogs will come through with the win. You know, you got Fromm, you got Holyfield, you got Smith at running back, Hardman at receivers, Riley at receiver. You still got too much talent on the other side of the ball. But late in that ball game, mid-third quarter, fourth quarter, watch for Georgia to take off and win this game. I'm going to say by 10 points. Georgia Bulldogs, too much for the Missouri Tigers late in the game. Nebraska versus Michigan. Michigan's ranked 19th, back in the rankings this week. Nebraska coming off a tough loss to Troy. Troy went to Nebraska and got the win in Nebraska. Scott Frost is gonna still, you know, he's putting in a new system. He's got to get his type of players into his system, so he has to work with what he has. I don't see Nebraska going into the big house to win this. You know, so I could see Shea Patterson having a big game against Nebraska. Nebraska, this is gonna be the toughest test today. Michigan wins this big time. Notre Dame at Wake Forest. I've seen Wake Forest play, and I like true freshman quarterback Hardman. You know, if you haven't had a chance to read his story or view his story, I think you need to go see it. That guy has went through a lot of trials and tribulations in his young life. He's been through a lot, and he's a tough guy. And now he's at Wake Forest, and I'll tell you what, Hardman's going to be a quarterback to watch for the next couple years. Only a true freshman. He's already thrown for 834 yards. This guy can sling that rock. When I saw him play against Tulane, I was heavily impressed with him. But Notre Dame's coming to town, and a lot of noise is being made about, you know, this game is going to be very close. Wake Forest is going to play a good game. Wake Forest did beat a Boston College team last week, and they ran 105 plays, and you still couldn't beat Boston College. That right there tells me a lot. If you run 100-something plays, you should win. 105 plays ran on offense and you didn't win. That's crazy. That's something I don't get. But Notre Dame's coming into town, and Notre Dame to me is a better ball club than Boston College. Brandon Wimbush, you know, 42 at 76 for the year, almost 600 yards. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. I heard people say some of the interceptions weren't his fault. You got Jones rushing for 225 yards and Boykin at 161. I don't see Wake Forest keeping this close. If they do, it'll be a shocker to me. But I have Notre Dame beating Wake Forest in this game. Kansas State against West Virginia. Will Grier. Tell you what, Will Grier is phenomenal looking quarterback. This game here, they're going to stay undefeated. Big time. Kansas State will put a fight early, but it's not going to be not going to last long because West Virginia is too much on their side. 16-point favorites. Almost 400 yards passing the game. Kansas State looks to have a good passing defense, only allowing 189 yards a game. But I think this game here is gonna be something different. I think Will Grier will be able to toss the rock all over the Kansas State. West Virginia defeats Kansas State. TCU Texas, rivalry. We saw TCU last week against Ohio State, and they put up a great fight. The mistakes in the third quarter is basically what hurt TCU against Ohio State. They don't have those couple turnovers in the fourth quarter. They'll be in the ball game with Ohio State. They will be in the ball game with Ohio State. Just a few mistakes, and that cost them the game. And I'm looking at the matchup predictor on ESPN, and Texas is picked to win against TCU. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see it. I don't see it. Just because Texas had a great game against USC, they're not going to beat 17th ranked TCU. TCU is a better team than USC. Like I said, if TCU wouldn't have made the mistakes in the third quarter, we could be talking about a different ball game. They were right there until those mistakes in the third quarter. And that's what helped Ohio State put the game away against TCU. I just don't see it happening. Ellinger did look good against USC. All the Texas looked good, especially in the second half. It's like a different team we were watching. But all in all, too much TCU. Robinson at quarterback will be too much for Texas to handle. All right. Anderson and running back will get the yards done. I have TCU defeating the Texas Longhorn. All right. Texas Longhorn allowing 360 yards on defense, 250 yards in the air. And I think that's what TCU is going to hurt them the most. TCU will get that victory over Texas. Stanford against Oregon. College game day is going back to Oregon. They love going to Oregon, boy. They must go to Oregon at least once a year. I tell you what. Get some other schools a chance. Y'all haven't been to Baton Rouge in about, 2 years? Time to come back. But, I think Mario Cristobal will get the ship going back at Oregon. It's good to see that they're, trying to get back to an elite level. Hebert already had 840 yards passing and 12 touchdowns. Verdell rushing the ball right at 200. And Johnson III at 134 yards. But I tell you what, Costello, that's another good quarterback. 729 yards, 7 touchdowns already. Bryce Love, a lot of defenses are game planning on Bryce Love. They want Stanford to beat them by throwing, and it's working. They are winning games by throwing the football. So, the thing is, you do want a game plan around Bryce Love, but then you got to stop the passing game. And right now, Stanford is showing you that, okay, go ahead, game plan around Bryce. You can go ahead and stop him. We still gonna beat y'all passing. Sega White, 324 yards, 5 touchdowns, big time receiver. And I don't know if Oregon can stop Stanford. I look at who Oregon played so far: Bowling Green, Portland State. And they had a tough game with San Jose State this weekend compared to who Stanford has played already in a good San Diego State team and a good USC team. So this is Oregon's first big test. I don't see Oregon getting the job done. Too much Stanford, and Oregon's allowing 226 yards passing, 77 yards rushing. So, I look for Costello. They have a big game passing. I really do. They can't. That's 226 yards against, minor competition. Here comes Stanford. If you give that up against minor competition, how much you gonna give up against Stanford? Yes, you're at home, but I got Stanford, ladies and gentlemen. Stanford wins this game. They favored by 1.5 points. I got Stanford with a little bit more than that. Stanford defeats the Ducks in Eugene, Oregon. And last but not least, Wisconsin at Iowa. Who would have thought BYU would go into Wisconsin and get the win? Did Wisconsin overlook BYU? Or was BYU just the better team that weekend? That was a shocker. I did not see that happening. And now Wisconsin got to go to Iowa and play Iowa at night. And that environment will be crazy. That is one of the toughest places to play in at night. I'm telling you, this is going to be a low-scoring game. You got to get Jonathan Taylor going early in this game. I mean, he didn't get to going last week, which was another shock. But you got to get Jonathan Taylor going. That's the thing. Get your load horse going. Once you get him going, and things will start to work for you. Even in a passing game, where you can start play action. Okay? Wisconsin, they're getting almost 500 yards a game. And Iowa getting only 400. But Iowa's defense only allowing 209. 209. And they had a big game against Iowa State, where they won 13-3. And Iowa State is a tough team. Had a tough outing against Oklahoma State. So you can't look past this Iowa defense. Okay? And you go by schedule, the toughness of it, you probably give the edge to Iowa because they played Northern Illinois, Iowa State, Northern Iowa, compared to BYU, New Mexico, and Western Kentucky. Okay? So maybe with the Iowa State being a power conference team, I see a low-scoring game. A low-scoring game. But I think Wisconsin bounces back from that loss last week because they know now they have to run this table in order to get a shot for the college football playoffs. So I have Wisconsin in a low-scoring game. All right? I look for Jonathan Taylor to come back and have a big game. Wisconsin with the win in Iowa. That's all I have, folks. I'll come back next week for week 5. Until then, peace.